Welcome to Sports Talk with Steve Jones, the daily talk show with the voice of Penn State football and men's basketball. You never know what special guest may stop on by any given day. Now here's the man of the hour, Mr. Steve Jones.
All right, welcome. Great to have you with us. This is D-Day, 81 years ago. Ask yourself if you could do it. But those people did it. To storm a beach, right? They always tell you that you want to be at the elevated position. Well, guess who was at the elevated position? Not the people that stormed the beach. That generation is almost all gone because it was 81 years ago. I listened to an interview this morning with somebody who was 103, stormed the beach at Normandy, was in 6 other battles. And he said, somebody was watching over me. He says, I never got a scratch.
It's crazy.
I mean, I think he's from Minnesota. And I was like, wow. Unfortunately, others can't make that claim. And for me, it's one of those trips. Like people would, if they were to ask me, where would you like to go that you haven't gone? That is absolutely one of them. And pay tribute at all the crosses and all the stars of David that are there. And just, because we get to do what we do because men did what they did for all of us. They not only saved a country, they saved a continent, and in turn probably saved the world as to what they did on that day 81 years ago. We'll get to the NBA Finals in a moment. I need to start with Max Granville. These are, when I talk about negotiating a season, it really is from the time you start in winter workouts through the spring, then the, quote, off-season workouts, then training camp, and then the season itself. This is why you need depth.
And it was announced, what you're referring to is Max Granville is dealing with a long-term injury. It was announced yesterday by James Franklin.
Right.
So.
And long-term means, okay, what are the other options? And that's my point. You need to negotiate, after watching a 16-game season last year, which happens to be unprecedented in Penn State football history. They had never played more than 14 in a year. 2016, they played 14. And to do that, there are twists and turns and weeks or periods of time you're not going to have people. And Penn State had, to be honest with you, a fair amount of injuries last year. And Max Granville had reclassified, young player. You're watching him like, okay, he doesn't look like a kid. He plays well. He got himself into the rotation, and it should not be a surprise, at least it wasn't to us, that when Abdul Carter did get banged up in the Fiesta Bowl against Boise State, Max Granville was one of the options out there on the field in a playoff game, and he did more than hold his own. Yeah. He played well. So there was a lot of hope about him making the next step forward. The weight room really helped him. He really had put on good weight, was set to go. And evidently, based on what James said yesterday, this happened at home. It did not happen here. So the options now, immediately the people I look to, like Jalen Harvey is one that I look at, I think has great promise. Now, you already have Denai Dennis Sutton, Zariah Fisher.
Yeah,
so
those are your 1-2 still.
Okay? And Nate White, the transfer from Texas A&M, I thought it took him like 2 or 3 weeks to settle in the spring. It took a while. But then the last week, 10 days, I started seeing more of him making plays. Malachi Williams maybe it's just because he wears 20, but he gives me an Adisa Isaac feeling as to how he plays the game. He did not play a down last year for Penn State, but he was also 4 times last year the scout team defensive player of the week.
So he's got something.
So he's got something that they're seeing. Because, I mean, look, they don't just nilly-dilly, willy-nilly hand out that, yeah, great, okay, it's his turn, give it to him. And so we'll see what he can do to be a part of it. So Williams, Anae White, Jalen Harvey. I mean, those are some of the guys you look at. I know a lot of people looking at Daniel Jennings. I can't tell you anything about him. I just know he reclassified.
Even Camacho, I believe.
Yvonne Camacho. And we're walking out of Beaver Stadium after the walkthrough for the Blue-White game, and I said, "Hey, let's go through the pronunciation of your name." I said, because after watching you in the spring, you're definitely playing tomorrow, Blue-White game, and then we'll see how it plays out. But I want to make sure we get it right. Camacho had a really, for a true freshman, he had a very, very good true freshman spring. And you're like, he's got something to him. All right. Now, does he have enough now in training camp to then earn the trust and get on the field? Where Deion Barnes can look at him and Greg Gattuso can look at him and go, okay, what do you think? Right. But he's another guy that takes that should get a long look at that spot. They have talent there. They may not have experience. Even Jalen Harvey has limited experience. And Anae White has experience. Williams has no game experience. Camacho has no game experience.
The game experience is Denia Sutton and Zariah Fisher, and then the bits and pieces.
And believe
me,
Zariah Fisher is.
He's going to be.
He is a very, very good player. Just has to keep himself out there. He's just and look, his injuries have been, That's why when I've spoken to groups, I've said if you wanted to pick a guy to root for openly for, Zariah Fisher's that guy because of the kind of person he is, the kind of work ethic he has, that he's encountered some bad fortune along the way, and now maybe he can turn and be some good fortune for him, which would be good for Penn State. So those are some of the guys off the top of my head that I'm thinking of that have an opportunity there.
We got time to see how it's going to play out because the first game we still have, 3 months?
Right.
Pretty much?
I mean, it's something you just don't want to see happen. And Oregon just had that happen.
Evan Stewart,
same thing. And this is for them. He was the number one option at wide receiver for them returning. The most productive player. For Malachi Moore, this is a guy he was going to really depend on. And Evan Stewart has a long-term situation that, and they're blunt about it. They're saying, look, he's out for the year.
Yeah, they've said he's out for the season. They're saying it is a lower body injury, which is just never good. And he apparently tore his patellar tendon is what they're looking at.
Yeah.
So it is not good. He's going to be out the entire season. And one would suspect, because he was probably going to be a draft pick this coming season, was going to go.
Yes.
The question now comes in, does he stay for another year to try and get his stock back up? So Evan Stewart is now out for the season, which is, as you said, big for Oregon. Penn State will see them in September. So
September 27th for the whiteout.
The question then becomes who is going to be the next group up, of course, because Tez Johnson's gone to the NFL.
Right.
So you've got guys like Decorian Moore and others who might be the next group up.
Right.
In Eugene. So injuries are happening.
Which you don't want. It's something I never want to see. I've always been of the thought I want to see your best against their best and see who's better.
Yeah.
Right? It's not like Jerry Valeri who roots for injuries. I don't understand that. Just confused. Before we get to the finals, I want to mention the Spikes. They opened a 3-game weekend series starting tonight. It's their home opener this evening. The home opener is presented by PSECU. Fireworks tonight, fireworks tomorrow. All 3 games are 6:30. We'll get through some weather here in the middle of the day, and then after that, it should settle down and turn into a nice evening, which we're looking forward to. There's nothing like being at the ballpark. The sights, the sounds, the smells. With all the with
food.
all. I mean, that's what I mean. The smells. You're talking about the food. It's always wafting up toward the booth.
And by the way,
it's really it's summertime.
Yeah.
Okay. And I know summer officially starts on the 20th.
Summer starts when baseball is warm.
With baseball, you're out at the ballpark. People have asked me. I actually had somebody come up to me at Spikes Fest, and it was the day Penn State played USC. I heard you. So we heard you weren't coming back. I'm like, who told you that? Like, I wish people would just ask me.
Yeah. Heard rumors, Steve. Am I?
Oh, believe me, I'll sit there. What? All these people know more about my life than me. I said, no, I'm definitely coming back. I love doing baseball.
Yeah.
But that starts tonight. They have West Virginia for this. And I can't tell you anything about West Virginia. I just know they're the Black Bears.
By the way, Sunday, Bark in the Park, it's the greatest day. There's nothing I love more than dogs and baseball and hot dogs. Put the three of them together, put them in 75-degree weather. Greatest day. I will stand on that hill.
Well,
and nothing will beat seeing Joe Putnam try and out-eat a dog in right field. It's a peak moment for me in life.
That is big when that happens. I will say this, that the 1 year, this is when State College was in the New York Penn League. I did more road series back then. I mean, now I do home games plus Williamsport. It's a beautiful arrangement, right? But I had to go to Batavia. That's about 35 miles east of Buffalo for the uninitiated, right off the New York Thruway. And they had Bark in the Park night. And Batavia's a beautiful little town. I mean, isn't it? In the ballpark, no. I go up there. It's over. I look down. I said, how many dogs do they have here tonight? And I finally looked down. They had 2. I said, that's really not a great promotion up here.
Well, we love it here in State College. There are a lot more dogs.
There are usually hundreds.
Yeah, there are more dogs than there are people sometimes.
There are usually hundreds. Now they have dugout, right? Because, we all know Bob passed away. But, dugout, right? And they bring dugout around. Everybody loves dugout.
Oh, my gosh.
And dugout comes out up in the booth and the whole deal. And it's like everybody thinks he's the best announcer. And
is that dugout or Steve Jones I hear? I can't tell.
Nobody can tell. It's really the same.
You know who is a dog, though, as the kids would say? Tyrese Haliburton in the last 3 minutes of a basketball game.
Because the NBA got. Yesterday we were talking about what will the ratings be like and so forth, and we won't know until as this plays out because of the size of the markets and the fact that there are not many players that are familiar to the general population. Basketball fans know everybody is. Last night's game did the NBA a world of good.
Oh my gosh!
Now you've got people going, whoa, wow, Oklahoma, okay. Indiana, which won, I think it was the first 2 games at Cleveland. They won the first 2 games at Madison Square Garden. Now win this game.
They won the first game on the road in every single series they've played so far.
Yep.
Crazy.
And the only time they led was on the Haliburton shot.
0.3 seconds they led this entire game. That's it, 0.3.
But the Belmont Stakes is tomorrow, okay? This was the equivalent of watching journalism in the Preakness close. Right? Every stride, making up ground. Now, for Oklahoma City, their star was the star. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was brilliant last night. I believe he had 38.
He had 38, 14 for 30, 3 for 6 from 3, 7 for 8 from the foul line. He played a good game.
But remember last year when they did not advance, Jalen Williams did not play well in the postseason. he did not really have a good. Neither did Chet Holmgren. Holmgren didn't either. Holmgren was good in other areas, but he was only like 2 of 9 from the field.
Yeah, they went combined 8 for 28 from the field, 1 for 5 from 3, 6 for 6 from the foul line. They had a combined 10 rebounds and 6 assists, a steal and a block.
In the last 5 games, Alex Caruso is 5 of 18 and 3. I felt like last night he was open for a reason because they kept kicking into the corner. And he was open, and you're talking about a guy that during the regular season was a 36% three-point shooter. In his NBA career, he is a 40% three-point shooter. All right? So it's not as if you have to make a bet on some of these things. You're running rotations. Some of your rotations include doubles, and you're going to make a bet on somebody. They made a bet on Caruso last night, and Caruso made the bet pay off for Indiana, okay? Yeah. Because he struggled last. I think it was 1 of 4 and 3.
He went 1 for 4.
He's 5 of his last 18. Okay, so now you're like, okay, and I think only 1 of his last 7 now in threes. And so they made that bet because, and let's give Indiana credit. We mentioned 120 is the key. They won last night with a 111. When you're playing Oklahoma City, here's the difference between Oklahoma City and the Knicks. The Knicks have what we would refer to as 2 Waldos on the court. And the NBA is exponentially better than college basketball at identifying Waldos. And the coaches identify them. Yeah. College coaches identify them. But the players don't take advantage of it like they do in the NBA. They really take advantage of matchups. Oklahoma City doesn't have Waldos, and they still scored 111. All right? There's nobody out there where you look at Oklahoma City and go, pooh, not a defender, can't play. No, the Oklahoma City has a bunch of defenders can't play. Their problem last night was they weren't shooting well. Even when they were up 11, even when Oklahoma City was up 11, they were at that point shooting 41% from the field for the game. And they were up 11. And Indiana was shooting like 48%. Indiana had, 19 turnovers in the first half.
19 turnovers in the first half. They ended the game with 24. They only turned over 5 times in the second half.
That's how they came back.
Well, how they came back was they also just stuck around. Everyone discussed that going into the Knicks series with the Celtics, back when that was started before injuries, before crazy things happened, is the Knicks' goal is to stay within striking distance.
Right.
Keep it within 9 to 12 points. Keep it somewhere in there because then all of a sudden, quick three.
Right.
All of a sudden, it's a 1-score game. And that was what the Pacers did. They kept this game close.
Right.
They said, we need to keep it closer. And what they've been saying is the Thunder might be a better team at everything except for closing games. Because Tyrese Haliburton has 4 game winners now, at least in the playoffs.
He's on a roll. He's on a roll in doing it. It's his moment.
And he didn't have a good game. And still, at the end of the game, you give him the ball and you say, go.
I think he had 14.
He had 14, but Rick Carlisle had a timeout at the end, and he decided not to take it.
I talk about this all the time. I get frustrated by it, right? Even though I shouldn't be frustrated by it. But I get frustrated by it. I'm sick and tired of having people say to me about the usage of timeouts at the end of games. All right? Where I sit there and go, look, there are various ways to do this. Okay? That game was not a tie game.
No.
If he misses the shot, Oklahoma City's going to win the game.
They win 110-109.
Okay? If he misses the shot, even if Indiana gets the rebound, they're not going to have enough time to put a shot back up to win. Okay? And so I'm sitting there, and every single time, they should have called the timeout, should have done this. No, okay? This is where, let's go back to ESPN. This is where, and I say this with all due respect to Dick Vitale, but Dick Vitale was the primary guy over and over again. You got a timeout. You got to use a timeout. You got to use a timeout. Right? And you sat there the entire time like, there are certain times you use a timeout, okay? So, for example, okay, I have an inexperienced point guard out there or a relatively inexperienced team. You use a timeout. Because remember, when you use a timeout, what does that allow the opponent to do?
To set up
their defense, okay? Now, if I have inexperienced players or an inexperienced playmaker, I'm using timeouts because, look, this is a learning curve. Okay? Once I have a little older team, and once I have a more experienced point guard, and we practice this enough where I trust him, now, okay, I put them backpedaling and have him orchestrate, because it becomes a fire drill out there. I mean, you watch everybody. I don't care if it's Duke or the Lakers. It's a fire drill out there. And Haliburton is a guy that been there, done that, thus you trust him. And so trust is the key word as to whether you use a timeout or not. Do I trust my team more if I have a timeout to draw it up, or do I trust the players on the floor enough to say, hey, look, it's going to be chaotic out there. You'll be able to take advantage of that, right? And they practice it all the time. And that's why this, I got to call a timeout. Just like I've talked about with analytics. Analytics and sabermetrics believe there's one way to win. There are multiple ways to win, and by the way, analytics is one of them.
Yes. You want to know a stat, by the way?
There are multiple ways to win at the end of games. One of them happens to be calling a timeout. One of them happens to be not calling a timeout.
Would you like to know? So, firstly, on that play, as you said, he doesn't let the defense set up, and Rick Carlisle mentioned after the game, he was like, we got the ball with 8 seconds left. It was a disjointed defense. Haliburton gets the ball on the far side of midcourt, and he cut across the court against Cason Wallace, a second-year player, who, yes, is a great defender,
right? But
that situation, he was defending Haliburton driving to the basket because what's the easiest shot technically in basketball? It's a layup. So he's like, I'm going to try and stop the layup from him getting there. And if he drives in, maybe he kicks it out for a three. No one was going to help him trap because they'd been making their threes all game. They were shooting 40-something%. They all stood home. Haliburton then took a wild sidestep and knocked it down. It was an incredible shot. It was great. The Pacers have been down 15 points in 8 games this postseason.
And won them.
They're 5-3.
Yeah, they've won them.
It is the most such comebacks in a single postseason in the play-by-play era ever, since 1997. Most ever. 5-3 in games down 15.
Now, what does this
Bonkers.
do? What does this do? It gives you multiple scenarios here. I mean, for Oklahoma City, it's important for them to win the second game at home. They need to go to Gamebridge even. I mean, that's what they need to do. Is this a scenario where a legitimately great team like Oklahoma City, is this like the finals back in the early 2000s when the Sixers played the Lakers, and the Sixers, and Iverson was great in this game. I mean, great.
Yeah.
And the Sixers won and went, whoa. Then the Lakers won the next 4. Okay. Or is this now one of those where, you know what, they're fairly evenly matched, and we're going to go a long way in this series?
And that is what the Thunder...
And for the Thunder, here's the issue. Okay? Their star played a great game last night. It wasn't one of those where SGA didn't have a great game, and it kind of opened the door. No, the problem last night happened to be the others. The others didn't help him out last night.
The only one who did. Lou Dort helped out. He went 5 for 9 from 3, but that was it.
Right. But like Williams, who's had a really good playoff, kind of played like last year. Chet Holmgren didn't really have a good night. He was 2 of 9. So they're going to need more from other people. And they can't just rely on being in the home court to do it.
They also, what they need to do is they need to push it beyond 15, because the Pacers, playing with pace isn't just good for trying to knock teams out early and get really far ahead. It's good for the Pacers in this case where they can come back at any moment in time. That's what they've shown all playoffs, is they can score and score quickly. They, in this game, were sitting with 3 minutes. They were down, if I'm not mistaken, or with 8 minutes to go, they were down 14. What happens? Obi Toppin hits a 3. Miles Turner makes a banks in a 3. All of a sudden, they're down 8. And then Cason Wallace makes a shot. They're down 10. Obi Toppin makes another 3, down 7. And they just cut and cut and cut into the lead. And all of a sudden, you get down to the last shot. Say Gilgeous-Alexander gets an 8-footer, misses it. And then Tyrese Haliburton makes a pull-up jumper.
Yep.
Like, you cannot give them the ability to come back in the game. You need to put it far enough away where they can't do anything. And the Thunder last night after the game were saying...
And the Thunder have had, like, believe it or not, that's actually been an issue for them.
Yeah.
They have this awesome record, but they're not the best closing team. They've hung on in a few games to win.
And the Thunder said yesterday after the game, we were in this situation earlier than playoffs. We'll be okay. They're referring to the series against the Denver Nuggets, where they lost that first game by 2. I believe that was one of the Aaron Gordon buzzer beaters. It was the first one.
Yeah.
And then they won the next game by 43, lost in overtime the next game after Aaron Gordon sent to overtime, and then won, lost, and then won game number 7. So they said, we lost that game 1 at home. It's okay. We've been here before. We'll be okay.
Right.
The only difference is Tyrese Haliburton in the final 3 minutes of the game is just, I think incredible is putting it lightly. So there is a statistic, and I know stats, craziness, shooting clutch win probability added in a single postseason.
Right.
Basically, how many wins do you add to your team in one single postseason with the last shot of the game?
Right.
The best going into this season was LeBron at 1.86 in 2013. Like, he's adding almost 2 wins to his team.
Right.
Tyrese Haliburton this postseason is at 2.48. He's basically adding another half a win every single game with the last shot on the line. It is just a bonkers number.
Right.
And he, at the end of the games, is confident. He can drive to the basket. He can take step-back threes, which is what he did against the Knicks, what he did against the Cavs, it's what he's done against the Bucks.
Right.
He can do anything and everything at any given moment. And even if he's not having a good game, which he wasn't, he started getting the final 6 minutes, getting his rhythm back. Andrew Nembhard made some incredible threes. Miles Turner banked in a 3. Like, it takes a little bit of that, and then you say, here you go.
Because Nembhard didn't shoot the ball well against the Knicks.
He didn't shoot the ball well.
I mean, to the point where he was taking a lot of elbow 2-point jumpers, and even that wasn't going in.
Yeah.
And he's a really good defender. I mean, he's the one that primarily has SGA out there. So,
but it was an incredible game, start to finish. And now,
they don't play again until Sunday, and that'll be the earlier start because it's Sunday night. It'll be 8 o'clock. So that'll be the earlier start. Stanley Cup takes center stage tonight. Game 2, Edmonton and Florida after the Oilers won in overtime on a Leon Draisaitl goal, 4-3.
By the way, the Dallas Stars, after losing in the Western Conference Finals, fired their coach Pete DeBoer. They fired him.
That's ridiculous.
Just a couple of minutes ago.
That's ridiculous. I only met Pete DeBoer once. When Penn State was there for a Rose Bowl, and he was coaching the Sharks at the time, and got a chance to meet him, talk with him. Really liked him a lot. Just a genuinely good guy. I'm sorry, you reached the conference finals 3 years in a row, and your solution is to fire him? I mean, I'm sorry, that's bad management. Okay, that's one of those. What you're going to change up what? I mean. I don't get that. I don't get it.
3 straight Western Conference Finals, 3 straight losses.
I mean, to be honest, I mean, I know the Penguins have now hired a coach, but he'd be like the first phone call I'd make. This guy gets it. I mean, you know how many Game 7s he's lost? How many Game 7s has he lost? He's never lost a Game 7. I think he's like 11-0 or something like that. It's crazy. Right. Can't be a complete dope.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like...
It's craziness.
And again, I have no problem in looking at something going, they probably need to make a change. Not them. What, because they haven't gotten to the Cup final? Like, well, okay. I'll give you one. Pitt. And, he's TCU's coach now.
Leach?
No. Pitt. This Pitt basketball. He was there for a long time.
Jamie Dixon?
Yeah, Jamie Dixon. So Jamie Dixon's at Pitt. Took over for Howland when Howland left to go to UCLA. And they made some runs. But you know what the complaint was? He can't get us past the Sweet 16. Really? So he got out of Dodge and went back to his alma mater, which is TCU. Because the Pitt people didn't want him anymore. And he knew. He knew he was out. You knew he was out. How many NCAAs you been to since? How about none? None. How's that Sweet 16 look to you now? Yeah. I mean, again.
We discuss it all the time with coaches. It's been the thing that you and I have brought up constantly, which is if you fire your coach, is the grass greener on the other side? Like, unless you are, I would sit here today, and if I was, for example, the New York Knicks, the only reason I'd fire Tom Thibodeau is if I know I can get Eric Spoelstra or Tyronn Lue. That's about it.
Right.
Like, unless I know I can get the best coach in the league, if I am one of the best teams, I'm not letting go of that guy. He got you there every single year.
Right.
If they got rid of Pete DeBoer, 3 straight years, 3 straight conference finals.
Right.
Like
now, Thibodeau. Now, I'm not going to the internal workings. That's the furthest they've gone in so long.
And 4 of 5 years, they winning incredible seasons, brought life back to the Knicks. Could they be better? Right. Sure, they could be. But could it be way worse? Possibly. And you're sitting here, DeBoer gets you to this place. Only one team can make it every year to the finals, and only one team can win from a conference in a given year. Most. It is ridiculously tough. He is making one of the best teams in the league 3 straight years.
Right.
At some point, something's got to give. Luck comes into it. Injuries come into it. A lot happens.
Yeah.
And crazy.
No, well, again, now there's all with the Knicks. It's like a soap opera. All these things are right, and there's a lot of complaints now about having Rick Brunson on the bench. I mean, it's, so I don't know. I mean, you've got to be around a team to understand the team. That's why I always love like. I mean, do you realize it's like standing in my shoes when you're around something all the time, and you'll have somebody make the comment, "Well, he's lost the team," and you're there every day. Like, really? Like, I couldn't tell if they lost the team.
Crazy,
right? I mean, it's like when you get all these outside opinions. Like, so again, the rumors, like, is Rick Brunson a problem? Is what you're going to have players actually come out and actually say it. All right. You have to actually say it and like be quoted on it before you start. Like, well, the rumor is like, I mean, you know how many times I've had sat there and say, and the rumor is, I'm going, and you'll think to yourself, that's not even remotely true. Right? And then you have to diplomatically answer it.
Yeah.
It's crazy time. So that's where that is. So it's again, like I only met Pete DeBoer once. Really personally liked him. Like I mean, we talked for a little bit.
Yeah. By the way,
and so like he's always a guy I rooted for, and I just think when you go to 3 straight Western Conference Finals, you're not really a failure, are you?
And speaking of finals runs, Texas Tech game number 1. A few days ago, drew 2.1 million viewers on ESPN, the most watched game 1 of the Women's College World Series ever, peaked at 2.8 million concurrent viewers. Game 2 took place last night in Oklahoma City, a 7-minute drive from the Paycom Center, I believe, where the Thunder play, to where the Women's College World Series is. 7-minute drive. Both games crazy, went down to the final minutes. Nigeria Kennedy finished the game off for the Red Raiders. They're not going to a game 3, which is taking place on Saturday, I believe. And that is going to be a game where Kennedy's going back out there.
Of course she is. She's pitched every inning of their postseason for them.
She is. Her arm at the end of the season is just going to be just like in all the video games or the TV shows, you the scan of somebody and you can see where like they have something going on and it's like bright red. Her arm is just bright red because she is pitching every pitch, every game, everything.
Well, they're getting their $1 million out of her. That's for sure. Worth. They're getting their $1 million out of her. There's no doubt about that.
But she delivered. They won 4-3 in this game. She went the distance for the Red Raiders for the 5th straight game in Oklahoma City.
Right.
She is just pitching. It was her 495th pitch of the Women's College World Series. 495 pitches. That's insane.
But the motion, that's used,
adrenaline kicks in. At some point.
But the motion that is used. I don't mean the emotion. I'm talking about the motion of throwing a softball is easier on the arm. And look, for Texas Tech, look, they've never been this far. And we always talk about, in the business world about return on investment. Okay, so return on investment, there she is. All right. She has done everything they could have asked to get them to this point, and we'll see how it plays out. Now we get to Aaron Rodgers.
You mean the deal everybody knew was coming for about 2 months? That Aaron Rodgers, the one who we all knew was signing for the Steelers, but for reasons unknown to us, they waited until one of the wildest days to announce it.
No, he waited.
Yes.
Okay. I thought he was going to be an O.J. Mayo. Do you know the O.J. Mayo story? O.J. Mayo, he is the #1 recruit in the country in a particular year. Tim Floyd, I believe, is the coach at USC at the time. I think he'd gone to USC from Iowa State or something like that. And, they'd recruited him. All of a sudden, the day before classes opened at USC, Floyd gets a phone call. And they hadn't talked in months. I'll be there tomorrow. What? I'll be there tomorrow. Start classes. Really? And that's how USC got it. Mayo. He just called him. Right? Day before classes, I'll be there. You got to be kidding me. Right? And that's all. That's about what happened here.
Yeah.
Right? I'm a bit surprised he didn't wait longer because he is not a believer in mini camps.
Yeah, and they apparently have their mandatory mini camp starting next week.
Right. But maybe because it's a new system, maybe he feels he needs to get out there and acclimate himself to it. That's the only thing I can think of. And I will say about Rodgers, okay? If you watch the first half of last season, so let's take the first 9 games for the Jets. The Jets don't play well, and he's not playing well. And I think it took him a long time to understand that what Aaron Rodgers could do in ad-lib situations 10 years ago, he can no longer do. Those little things he could do 10 years ago, like all of a sudden, like, okay, I'm 10 years older and I can't quite ad-lib it this way the way I did back then. Which then transitions to the last 8 games, which not as many people saw because the Jets were not on national TV, the last couple months of the season because they're not a factor, okay?
Yeah.
At all. But if you look at the last 8 games, he actually played pretty well, which is not a surprise in that the longer you get removed from an Achilles, even at 40, now he's at 41 now.
Yeah.
Okay? The longer you get removed from Achilles, the closer you get. You can play with it, but you're like 70, 75%. And then as time goes, the percentages get you back into the 90s.
You're building back up trust in your body. You're building back
but it's just the way the Achilles is. It takes a little because of the push off and everything that you need to do. And the last 6 to 8 games of the season, Aaron Rodgers played actually pretty well. Now, is this what the Steelers need? I don't know. Because, again, we're back to this Atlanta Hawks thing that we've talked about how many times, where the Steelers have been good enough to make the playoffs. They haven't won a playoff game in, 10, 11, 12 years?
It's been a while.
I think it's been a dozen years since they won a playoff game, right? Where they've been good enough to get in a playoff position, but have not been good enough to advance. And means that they draft further down the line, and they don't get a premium draft pick.
The last time they won a playoff game was the divisional round in the 2016 playoffs against the Chiefs.
Okay, so 9 years. Okay.
Yep.
It's been 9 years. And this is so now the question's going to be, do you end up with another one of those 9 and 8 years where you're on the verge of getting to the playoff and may get in, and now you're drafting 22 again?
Yep.
Because I think a lot of people were hoping, I mean, everybody wants to win. Okay, everybody wants to win. I got that. All right, fans want to win the whole thing. But some people were hoping, hey, look, just go out, win 4 or 5 games with Mason Rudolph, get one of the top 7 or 8 picks, get a quarterback. Right. Okay. Yeah. Right. But now you are, because they've never adequately replaced Ben Roethlisberger.
No.
I mean, Roethlisberger in his last year, which was, Father Time wins all the time. Perfect record, kind of like the NCAA against anybody in court. For life.
Over.
And even Roethlisberger in a year where saying he's a shell of himself would not be fair.
He was not his peak.
But in other words, he was not the great Ben Roethlisberger, but he was very good. They haven't had anybody that's been as good even in that year since. They haven't. They've tried young guys, old guys. Now they're going to do this.
The oldest you can get, basically.
I mean, I think Pittsburgh fans are not tolerant of the drama when it comes to Aaron Rodgers.
No.
New York loved the drama of it. Pittsburgh's not tolerant of the drama, not big on drama, even though they wish the baseball team had some. And that's going to be. This is not the Hall of Fame conquering hero coming to Pittsburgh. This is a quarterback that the current fan base has doubts about, and this is not universally being cheered in Pittsburgh that he has signed. It's a 1-year deal, and at his age, that makes complete sense.
Yeah.
To sign a 1-year deal.
The Steelers, week 1, will, of course, be playing in MetLife Stadium against the Jets.
Right.
Week 8, they'll be hosting the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah.
So those will be their games. And he has, of course, a big weapon in DK Metcalf now, who's a Steeler. So we'll see what happens with this team this season with the Steelers. As you said, social media has not taken kindly to it. They have not. They've kind of been like,
Right, exactly.
It doesn't do anything either way for us.
Now, in all likelihood, is he a better short-term solution than Mason Rudolph? In all likelihood, probably. Probably.
Yeah.
It's not like Rudolph didn't do a good job down the stretch a couple of years ago and get them to a playoff. But but Rudolph is, to his credit, a long-term backup quarterback solution that can win you a couple of games during the year. The problem is when he becomes the solution that extends past 3-4 games. That's with most backup quarterbacks in the league that are good and functional players. They're good enough to win you a couple of games, but then when you become a longer-term solution, the performance falls back. Rodgers is probably the guy that they will turn to get. Now, he should have a better offensive line in front of him. Patano's going to be back. I mean, he only played 1 game last year, the first-round pick out of Washington. Frazier, the center, I really like. And they got a couple other guys up front who are pretty good. I'll see Pat Freiermuth next week. I'll ask him how he feels about it.
Yeah,
I'm going to see Pat next week. But we all know that Aaron Rodgers has always liked to use his tight ends. And if you're DK Metcalf, you got to feel like, okay, now the question is, do the Steelers go out and the guy that publicly visited the Steelers yesterday was Gabe Davis, who had done some really nice things with the Buffalo Bills, did really very little with the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Got a big contract with the Jags, went there, didn't do much.
Didn't do much of anything. So that's, he's somebody to at least take a look at. It doesn't mean that he's a signable solution, but somebody at least has a track record that's pretty good.
This is change of pace, change of topic for you. So I yesterday was sat. I love watching a bit of soccer. You know that. Listeners know that. Yesterday in the European soccer world, Spain took on France in the Nations League semifinals, I believe, was what they ended up playing yesterday.
Yeah.
I can go double check.
Right.
And they won 5-4, Spain did. And there is a player for Spain who I've discussed here on the show, I believe, a couple times. He's 17 years old. He's turning 18 July 13th. His name is Lamine Yamal. He is 17 years old. And he has a very strong chance to win the Best Player in the World award, the Ballon d'Or. At 17. 17 years old. Yeah. And he's the best in the world. And it's not even like we're saying this as a random thing. He legitimately is the best.
Right.
You can watch him play, and he's incredible. He helped win the Euros for Spain a year ago. He was the one who led them there and won the thing for them.
Right.
Did the same thing with Barcelona, basically single-handedly carried them this season. It's sometimes I love the fact that in soccer we get to watch the young kids play and watch them just go at it, because you see a 17-year-old with no fear,
right,
who is just having the time of his life at 17 years old and is just crushing everybody. So I thoroughly enjoy it and appreciate it. And of course, he will probably be here in 2026 for the World Cup.
Sure.
In terms of teams that have qualified so far, we have, of course, the U.S., Mexico, and Canada already through. Those are givens. Argentina have qualified through CONMEBOL. What? Yeah, I know.
Got handed to it a silver platter.
Oh, yeah. Argentina qualified for South America, basically. Spain or New Zealand has qualified for Oceania. And then for the Asian teams, you've got so far Iran, Japan, and South Korea qualified, plus newcomers Uzbekistan and Jordan. That is both their first World Cups ever. Both teams making their way to the US of A. And we still have quite a ways to go because there are quite a few teams to still figure out. There are 48 national squads. We've only got, 9 teams so far? Or 10 teams?
Well, I think they ought to start it now. It would give us a better chance.
Yeah.
What?
I know.
What? I like the odds when there are fewer teams.
And I believe this was reported a few months ago that a team is going to end up staying here in State College, staying at the Penn State Hotel and Conference Center, and will end up practicing at Jeffrey Field after the renovations are done this year. So during next summer's World Cup, there might be a team here. So if Lionel Messi, if you are in town, hello. Come on the show. I think they'll have time to hop on the show. What do you think?
Could you see that?
What? Let Messi coming into the studios here and
great to see you.
I think I might just break down in tears, Steve. I don't know. I'm unsure.
So how's Miami?
Yeah. How's Miami? How's the family? How's everything going?
Good. Hey, having a good time here at State College. A lot to do, huh?
You know who I'd want to see interact? Lionel Messi and Dick Girardi. I'd pay money for that.
I just talked to DJ like an hour ago.
What a man.
Yeah. Yeah. I could see you'd be a puddle.
Mm-hmm. I'd melt. I would melt.
Yeah, that's why I'd have to do the interview because I wouldn't.
Yeah.
Like, okay, let's go.
We also, I don't think I've discussed this as of yet. The Chicago White Sox announced that Justin Ishbia is in line to take over from Jerry Reinsdorf. It will take a few years, But
No.
billionaire private equity investor Justin Ishbia, who I'm assuming is related to Matt Ishbia,
I think it's his brother. That's his brother.
He is going to buy and becoming the owner of the Chicago White Sox.
Which is what, Rocket Mortgage or something like that?
Yeah. He is the brother of Matt Ishbia.
Yeah.
Ishbia made his fortune in part as a founder of Chicago-based Shore Capital Partners. So Jerry Reinsdorf is finally getting out of the White Sox business. People have wanted this for years. It's been a whole thing. But how it's going to work is they're in a long-term agreement that could lead to Ishbia taking over the team as soon as 2029 or as late as 2034. It'll basically come down to when Reinsdorf wants to fully get rid of his shares. Either in 2029 he has the option to, or 2034. It's up to Reinsdorf, who's 89, by the way.
Right, he's 89 years old. At some point, he will not be there, and that's fine. It's not as if they've never won anything under him. Mm-hmm. The White Sox won the World Series in 2005. They won 6 NBA championships
with the Bulls.
It's not as if he's been a complete disaster. I know people. It's frustrating on the South Side. They're not good. Okay, they're not good. And I don't know. Yeah. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that that I don't know. It's a lot of people get on owners. What Bob Nunning has done, though, is that when you know what the financial resources are, and you know your team's not spending the financial resources, they're just keeping it. Mm-hmm. Now you do have a complaint. I don't feel like Jerry Reinsdorf has kept his financial resources. He almost moved the White Sox to St. Petersburg.
Yeah.
Before the Rays were down there, and then he changed his mind. Then there was some talk about going to Nashville and the whole thing. But that's where they are. They're suddenly the Rockies are hot, so now the White Sox are back in.
The Rockies are scorching hot. Apparently,
they won 3 in a row.
I know they won 3 in a row. It's craziness.
Let's give some credit where credit's due.
They're red hot, and there are other teams that are not red hot. Steve,
no,
I believe. Who was it? What team? There was a team in baseball that is, I believe, 1-19 their last 20 games.
I think it's the A's.
It's the A's, yeah. Just fell off a cliff.
But
you know what the crazy part is? The A's are still 12 games up on the Rockies.
Yeah, well, let's give credit where credit's due to the A's. I mean, they've been an incredible draw in that 14,000 seats.
They've drawn more fans in Sacramento than they did in Oakland.
Yeah. So
it was less them not drawing fans in Oakland, more the team being run terribly and the fans not wanting to go to watch it because it was terrible.
Yeah.
And that's again a discussion for a different day when we have brain power to deal with that. When it comes to this weekend's slate of games, as we've mentioned, we've got a lot of baseball coming up this weekend. The game 2 tonight of the NHL Stanley Cup Final, and then game 2 of the NBA Finals is tomorrow alongside the Women's College World Series, game 3. So a lot of big games coming up this weekend.
Yeah.
In terms of watching, you'll, of course, as you mentioned earlier, be hanging out at Medfield
and the Belmont Stakes is tomorrow.
Belmont Stakes tomorrow.
It's not a mile and a half. It's a mile and a quarter because they're running at Saratoga, and they're probably going to have to run at Saratoga again next year. Now, it's a beautiful venue. I've been there. Beautiful venue. It's only an 8-horse field. Sovereignty, which won the Kentucky Derby, 5 weeks in between races, did not race the Preakness. It's 2-1. Journalism, which won the Preakness and is the only horse running in all 3, is 8-5. The horse that finished 3rd in the Kentucky Derby, Baeza, ridden by Flavian Pratt, who's like, I mean, if I had to pick, I think I'll go with him. Right. When we went to Santa Anita, he ran 3 horses that day. Okay?
Jeez.
Pratt, and guess what? 3-4-3.
Crazy.
Right? That's why he's aboard, I think he's aboard Baeza. Rodriguez, which won the Wood, is a speed horse in the race, but I don't think survives this one. That's the Bob Baffert horse. I think Mike Smith's going to be riding him. But Rodriguez will be near the front. But the entire key to me in this race is simple. Journalism, if you put journalism in clean air, which he did not have, nobody gets in the Kentucky Derby. It's a cluster bomb. 20 horses, boom, bang, 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 just to start you. I mean, he fell way back. Although Sovereignty was 16th at one point in the Derby, came back and won. Then, to be honest with you, in the Preakness, I mean, no offense, that's a rider's mistake, right? And the horse, to its credit, overcame the jockey's mistake and won, which was phenomenal. It was incredible to see. I don't think I've ever seen that in a horse race before. But if journalism gets clean air, that's the best horse out there. I know Sovereignty beat him, but again, that was a traffic problem. And you're not going to get a lot of money on this if you're going to go with, say, I think if the bet would be, 7-2? So if you go 7-2, all right, you're not going to get any money. One's 8-5, the other one's 2-1. Okay. Right? And there's no long shot in there where you sit there, especially because it's a mile and a quarter. You're not thinking about long shots at a mile and a quarter. Mile and a half? You think about long shots because the distance, no horse does. No horse goes a mile and a half. All right. So that is tomorrow at Belmont. It is race number 13 at Saratoga Racecourse. And again, part of me wants journalism to win for a couple reasons. Number one, I've had the chance to meet and talk with Michael McCarthy, the trainer. So, I mean, that helps. We talked about Pete DeBoer earlier. Same thing with Michael McCarthy. Came over, spent a decent amount of time with us at Santa Anita because, I mean, he knew Dick and the other guys there. I was the outsider, right? But he sure did like Penn State football, so that kind of helped. But that's one. Number two, I like the fact this horse is running all three. And he's the only one. And so just for that reason, I'd like to see the horse win because he's the one that they put out there all three times in a traditional sense. Now, I can assure you in no uncertain terms, Michael McCarthy would never put the horse out for 3 times in 5 if he didn't think the horse could do it. Because he's got nothing. He's got nothing here on the line. There's no Triple Crown on the line to do it. So if he was like, okay, we won the Preakness, the horse really can't come back in 3 weeks. The horse obviously has shown him he can come back. So, I mean, we'll find out. But that is tomorrow. We'll be watching that from the broadcast booth at Medler Field, Lebrano Park. And yes, it will be on. Right? And the 2-2. Ooh, look at that. But, yeah. We have to get you out to the ballpark here one of these nights.
I will be out at the ballpark quite a bit, Mr. Jones.
You know,
I love me a good game. I love me some baseball. You know that. I've played baseball my entire life. I spend as much time as I can at a ballpark, and I get to go and hang out there and then catch a hot dog from you or Joe Putnam. I mean,
I know Angela's working tonight. I believe Jerry is going tomorrow. So
I believe he's been banned from anywhere near there.
Right. Like, so don't you prefer Jerry like on a Sundays where it's not quite like like a Saturday night where?
What's the day the Spikes have off every week? Is it Wednesdays? Monday. So Jerry works Mondays at Spike Stadium.
And you know what? I feel like those are the days he excels. I feel like those are the days he does the most good. And yes, by the way, after the Special Olympics going on right now, like, it's awful that like all the outdoor events right now are on hold because it's pouring here right now. But the opening ceremonies last night, and Katie Schumacher-Cawley was there, which was great. The opening ceremonies, really spectacular last night. It's fun to stand out there at home plate and you look out and you see the stands completely filled with all these athletes and coaches and the enthusiasm and the love there. It was incredible. I know that they've got a lot of volunteers that are helping out, which is great. I know Erica Christensen does a great job with all this. And so, hey, let's this is the 35th year it's been at Penn State, I believe. 55 years overall. It's 55th Pennsylvania Summer Special Olympics Games. 55th, 35th at Penn State, which is really cool.
Awesome.
Really cool. So we'll work on getting Messi in. That would be great.
Yeah.
And maybe Spain will be here when we get that 17-year-old kid here.
Lamine Yamal. Yeah.
Yeah, whatever.
Don't disrespect Lamine Yamal.
No.
Thank you for listening to Sports Talk with Steve Jones, a 7 Mountain Media production. Come back at 11 every weekday for analysis of the latest happening in the sports landscape. From college football to European soccer, Steve and Kyle cover it all on Sports Talk with Steve